I have to stop you because we're at time.
Right. Yep.
All right, everybody ready? Mike, let me know. You good? Okay, welcome to the Essex Junction Trustees meeting. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome everybody. And Trustee Dan Karen is Skyping in tonight from, where are you Skyping from, Dan?
Brooklyn, New York.
All right.
Hello.
Our web stretches wide and far here on the Trustees, yeah. Evan, agenda additions, changes.
All we have is some materials at your places for I-5E.
Yep, okay.
So, but it's already on the agenda, it's just the materials for it.
Okay, great. Okay, so I don't think it's really, that's not really an
And then
amendment.
we do have one addition for our executive session. We're going into executive session for real estate.
Okay.
And I have one personnel item.
Okay, I don't know how to amend, we don't have an agenda for our executive
Right,
session.
you just-
Okay, we'll just
at the
acknowledge that we
time,
have that,
yep.
so I think we're good for the agenda, I don't think we need to amend the agenda. Okay, great. So first order of business is audience to be heard. Anyone in the audience have a question, comment about something that's not on the agenda tonight? Nope, everyone good? Okay. So our first item is Nick Meyer, and Warren, are you going to join us for the Emerald Ash Borer plan?
Yes, sir.
All right. You're welcome to come on up here if you want. You might be blocked a little bit, but if you want to, if you don't mind sitting there and sharing the space with that laptop. Thanks.
And you have to wave to Dan. So,
Hey, Dan.
Hey, I don't know where I'm waving.
Okay.
Welcome, gentlemen.
This has to stay where it is, correct?
More or less. You can move, Warren, you can move it around a little
I
bit.
just want to share, be able
Dan
to share the
Mulvine.
mic.
Take it away, Nick.
Well, we're here to answer any questions that you have. I know that you're all totally full up to date with the report that you gave you a month ago, I think.
I actually did.
Refresh.
So, we wanted to answer anything you had, concerns, and hoping that you will be able to endorse the plan.
Yep.
With our recommendations.
Yep. Did you have something?
yeah. So thank you for doing all this hard work. Maybe for the viewers at home, talk a little bit about
Yeah.
the overall part of the
Sure.
plan, why we're doing this when our little friend is maybe not as close as people think, but maybe
Mhm.
closer than they do know. And,
Okay.
and what the plan is for removal and replacement.
I think I will, since Warren penned a good bit of this, I'm gonna let him take the lead on
Sure.
it, and I'll jump in.
First of all, for folks, the emerald ash borer, that's what we're talking about, is a invasive pest that came into the US in 2002 and has moved from the Michigan area into Canada, all the way over to the East Coast. It's now been found in 35 states, including now all 6 states in New England. Was found in Vermont February of this year, and is the latest spot in Vermont that it was found is in South Hero, right on the other side of the sandbar. So it's about 12 miles from us. So yeah, it's here, it's moving around. So what it is, it's an invasive pest that attacks just ash trees, fortunately. So it's only the one tree. So getting closer back to the village in 2013, 2014 did an inventory of all of the public trees. And we have about 975 trees in the public right away, and out of that, 166 are the green ash.
Right.
So, that being said, the pest is closer than we once thought. We didn't even know it was here until February. It moves 3 miles a year, and it moves particularly by firewood. And that is the main way that it's transmitted around. So it's, you know, it's in 35 states and all 5 provinces in Canada, so it's really established. So we felt it important to put a plan together to bring to the trustees to outline what the pest is, how it works, what are our options for management of that pest before it gets here, a proactive approach, and I'll wait till it's here approach. We've laid that out in the plan, and one thing to let you know is that once the ash borer arrives in the community, it'll probably be here before we see it, because it's hard to identify. And one of the easiest ways to find the pest is look for flecking up in the top of the tree, some dieback, and woodpecker activity, okay? Because they'll go after the larva, which gets into, right under the bark, into the cambium layer. And as the larva grows, it makes a serpentine gallery and cuts the life support off to the tree. Now, the main thing to understand is about the ash tree, once they get the pest and start to decline, they fall apart rapidly, to the point where they're dangerous for arborists to take down. Can't hand climb them, you have to use equipment. So again, we're thinking ahead in our approach on that, and that they're safer to take and remove now.
Right.
So part of this plan, we are recommending to the trustees to look at taking maybe 15 or 20 a year down and then replacing them. As you saw in the report, the majority of the ash trees are in the south west quadrant of the village, Wilkinson,
Yep.
Hayden, you know where they are. So what we would propose to do is maybe 5 or 6 on each street, perhaps to start with, remove them and then replace them, so that you still have the canopy effect, you still have a nice approach
Yep.
to that. So we have done the research on cost. We've looked at using village forces or crew, the DPW crew to do it, and we've looked at contractor costs to do this removal. So I gathered all that information and averaged it and put it in here. So as you've looked at this, the most expensive piece is going to be tree replacement. We are hoping that the costs that were put into the report were the wholesale cost, and then 2.5 to 3 times that for the contractor to secure the plant, bring it in, plant it, and then guarantee it for 1 growing season and maintain it during that growing season.
Okay.
Once that's done, it becomes public property. So we may be able to get better pricing than what's in here, but we felt it was important to put what actual cost might be.
Mhm.
So the actual removal and stump grinding piece, if we do it with village crews, will be a lot less expensive.
Okay.
So it's kind of as you go through, and we looked at all the other possibilities in here. So we're here to answer specific questions that you might have, get your opinion and thoughts on how you feel about this issue coming to the village, and what you think about a best approach to manage it.
Okay. I think we had a question already. Dan has a question.
Yeah, I read through your report, and I saw the figures that you put down for the cost of hiring out to have the harvesting of the trees, or whatever you want to call it, the felling of the trees.
Yeah.
But I also looked at the rental costs that you put down for yearly cost of renting a stump grinder and chippers. Looking online, I found DR Trimmer, or DR, it's a company out of Vermont, gas chippers ranging in a price from $2,000 up to $4,700 that are capable of chipping up to 4-inch diameter limbs. I found DR stump grinders that, range up to $2,500 for the unit. And I just thought, even at the most expensive DR units, you're looking at $7,200 roughly, under $8,000 to buy a piece of equipment that our works would have to use throughout the year for not only the trees that need to be done, but just some of the brush that we've all noticed along the sidewalks and such that needs to be trimmed back. They could be using this equipment for other purposes.
Right, yep. Good question, Dan.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. When you get into commercial use of chippers and stump grinders, typically tree companies, tree services, and municipalities, I'll speak for Burlington because I am the past city arborist there. We had 12-inch brush chippers with a price tag of $40,000. So a 4-inch brush chipper from DR Trimmer, although it sounds inviting with the cost, is nowhere near big enough to handle what this type of work would be. And if we were going to suggest that the Public Works Department buy a chipper, it would certainly be a much larger unit than that.
But it's a silly, I had the same thought, that if you anticipate that the emerald ash borer is gonna be here for a number of years, and the town is gonna have this, and the town is probably gonna be taking down trees, it might, if we think out, we're gonna be doing this for the next decade, we might wanna actually think about that, about mutually purchasing a major piece of equipment and grinding these.
I think it's definitely something to consider.
Okay.
It's a good idea. Between the village and town, there's certainly a lot of work that could be done with a unit like that, but it needs to be a bigger unit.
Yeah, no, we get the unit
So-
that can handle an oak tree, you wanna get the biggest thing you can, but sure, if we're gonna be doing this.
Question for Warren. You're saying that Burlington has a unit that can chip a 12-inch diameter, 20-inch diameter, what have you diameter tree. Is there really a necessity that you have to chip it? Can it be cut and limbed and the bigger sections of the tree either brought to the Burlington plant where they burn wood in bulk as opposed to having to chip it down to small chips?
In general, it's a time-saving unit and less labor involved with a larger machine that can take up to a 12-inch piece of wood. The biggest thing with emerald ash borer is that you need to chip all the wood, especially when it gets in here, because that, as far as spreading the pest, is the best way to control it, because you're actually chipping up everything where the larvae are, and then that takes care of the issue,
Okay. Well, I think-
Stump grinder, quickly, you probably could buy one in the $15,000 range, $20,000 range that might work for municipality.
Is there, if besides, from your expertise, besides handling the equipment, is there do you need to have someone who knows how to handle this? And is that that's a big learning curve, I'll bet.
There would be training that would need to happen with the public works folks
Okay.
ahead of time, safety training for sure.
Like Evan and I probably couldn't operate it. You wouldn't let that
It's
happen.
not that you couldn't operate it, you'd want to know how to operate it, so again, training.
I saw the movie Fargo. Not going there.
All right,
Associate in the wood chipper.
Yeah. And on the Public Works crew is one gentleman who's worked for a while, who has experience, worked for Bartlett Tree Company, and his brother's an arborist, and so he's familiar with the equipment.
Okay.
Still needing more training, but we're fortunate in that regard.
Yeah. Very good. Does anyone have any other, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. With the tree replacements, it sounds like the suggestion is for a 2-inch caliper, if I'm saying that right.
Yes.
Is there then a concern in 5 years we're gonna have an emerald caliper borer that's then gonna come and take out this tree?
No, the caliper is just the size of the tree that you're
Okay.
planting.
It's not a type of tree.
It's not a type of tree
That's
at all.
the
It's
size.
the diameter.
It's just a general
Okay,
size,
right.
and for the most part, you don't want to go much less than that.
And that's one of the goals, I will say, for myself as the tree warden for the village, is looking at diversity. And we would diversify the new planting. We've already got a pretty expansive list of possible tree replacements,
Okay.
so that we would look at that with the community and go in and not put a monoculture back, let's put it that way.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
why we're in this
Good.
situation
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
ash.
Great. Appreciate that, and thanks for my lack of understanding. Clearly, my
Yeah.
thumbs are the
No
color of the
problem.
last name.
And Warren, I mean, to be honest, our ash tree population isn't as dense as other communities too. It was kind of like the tree, it's the reaction to the Dutch elm and the other one. And so, you know, it was generally an inexpensive tree in the market for
And it did-
developers.
And it did well in the urban environment, and
Yeah.
like so many others, and it was overused
Yeah.
in the landscape, and,
And in general, when, in your report, when you see it somewhat in neighborhoods, in those neighborhoods now, you would say to somebody, no, you want a different palette, a larger palette of species.
Right.
You could still have used ash, but you would have used some maples, you would have used some lindens or whatever. Not, and that's kind of what you're saying, as we go to replace them, you're not gonna replace them with one species, you're gonna change the.
that is
the
absolutely
palette.
correct.
And that's been our process since we started planting trees in 2012. when we've used it.
And I've seen the approach, the idea is we are not going to deforest an entire block or neighborhood. We're gonna take a couple and replace a couple, go to another neighborhood, take a couple, replace a couple,
Right.
and then work our way back so that the 2-inch caliper has a chance to come up a little bit and keep the other trees, and so it doesn't look like we deforested 165 feet or 300 feet of roadway,
Yeah, I think
like
that
they
when-
did in Chicago.
When you get going on this, we'll have to just make sure we have the plan and graphics on the website so that people understand, we can just refer them to that, has all the information, and they can understand what your plan is and why you're doing it.
And in that neighborhood, it's planted on both sides of the street. And so every homeowner there has an ash tree of their own to take care of.
Yeah.
So this will start the process
Yeah.
of cutting, replacing. They're gonna see what's happening and hopefully be proactive in doing the same.
And just to be clear, we are not removing any trees on private property.
Correct.
That is the homeowner's responsibility.
So let me ask one last question, not last question, but if you eliminate enough of the substrate, you eliminate enough of these trees, it doesn't mean you have to eliminate all of them. Some of them might be spared, because if if there's just not enough basic substance for the popular ash borer to get a foothold here, it just may not come.
And what they'll do is they'll move around, and so I thought of that, I thought long and hard about that, as far as, are we isolated enough here in the village?
Yeah.
So that we wouldn't have to worry about it? And then quick reality with talking with
No.
other folks.
No, it doesn't
No,
happen.
you're gonna see
They
them.
hunt you down and find you, huh?
And they're gonna move, you know.
Okay.
And, we do need to partner with the town and talk to them. Nick and I have talked about that, and they have so many streets, so many roads that are more on the rural end.
Yeah,
They know where all their ash trees are in the residential street neighborhoods. But surveys done along the roads would be the next step for them, because Grand Isle and North Hero and South Hero are in the same mode right now. Because you gotta identify them, see where they are, and then that just broadens the management piece.
And staffs have already talked about coordinating times when we're gonna remove both stump and stuff, so when we rent a piece of equipment, it's not sitting, it's gonna, you rent it by the week, you're gonna get a week out of it.
Lori?
So, and continue that line of thought a little bit, it's probably not just the town though, so are other communities around us being as proactive as we
Yes,
hopefully will
they
be?
are.
Yeah, okay.
Williston has already started.
They have.
They're in like year 3
Oh,
or
okay.
4. But they had an incredible amount of ash trees planted in the sub-developments up there.
Okay.
And they were like, oh, wow. So they already realize it, they've got a plan, and they're implementing it already. The other communities, I think Colchester and Milton need to be aware, because I think if this comes in from South Hero, they
Right,
may get it
they're gonna
first.
get it first, yeah.
So we don't want to be in a situation where everyone waits and then all of a sudden, everybody's looking for equipment. Everybody's, trying to get things done in a hurry,
Right.
and there won't be enough of people and equipment to go around.
I'm curious if, and I'm sure they are, but whatever the new name is, the Regional Planning Commission is aware and can push some of these communities as well that may not be,
Yeah, I mean,
we
it's
can
up
put a
their
bug in
alley,
their
and
ear.
it's conceivable down the road, they might get, federal grant or money to help communities deal
Well,
with
just
it.
to put, like, if we could, as trustees, say, we're working on this issue, Regional Planning Commission, we hope that you're working with other communities as well. I mean, just,
Yeah.
because we could do all this
Yeah.
and still,
There's a great resource with the Vermont Urban Community Forestry Program. They have helped several communities already, including us. There is grant money available for them for just about everything but removal. So that's something that a lot of the communities, the managers, should bear in mind. And also, there are grant opportunities, but not much for removal.
how about for replacement?
Yes, I think replacement.
Small
amount, but,
guys,
the biggest thing first is you need to know what you have before you
Right.
can react to it, so you need the inventory.
Yeah, which we have, so thank you.
Yeah.
That's great.
Evan, you had a question?
The other thing, if I remember, part of the report and stuff is the firewood. I mean, everybody's gonna start, if you start taking down trees, people think, great, oh, look, cheap firewood. That's how it's actually transmitted, right? Partially.
Right, but then you have to look at the quarantine area.
Right, but that's the other thing, what people don't, is like, you're not supposed to bring this into the area
Well, when it
if
was
you know what you're getting.
When it was established and talked about earlier this year with the state, Forest Parks and Recreation, they had 2 options: to quarantine the area and bury where they first found it, or do we broaden that quarantine and include the entire state? And that's what they did. So that being said, you kind of wonder, well, you can move it around then in areas that it's not, but they figured it's gonna get there anyway, so the quarantine is statewide, so that means you could move, if having a firewood here for ash, it's okay. However, as it was said in here, to let you know, a lot of our ash trees in the village are small diameter, 8 to 10 inch. We are lucky. We're not dealing with monster ash trees like other communities. So I think you're gonna see more wood chips
Okay.
than you are firewood. Definitely no saw logs, but there are, so that's why we would work with maybe other communities, and then, okay, we can either take the wood chips down to McNeil and they'll get burnt, or we can have some here that people can use around the house, the gardens, mulch with. So these are all open discussions to have in the future. But we put it in here for people, so you can think about it.
Yeah, I just don't think the quantity of firewood we will have will be that much every year. And it also gets to be a little bit awkward. Who's gonna butt this up, who's this, and the whole liability issue.
No, I'm sorry, what I was trying to say is people have thought, felled trees, then they get the wood, then they bring it here from somewhere else. And that's where, if you don't grind it, that's where the pest is coming, can come from. So we wanna be careful that as all these other communities are doing it around the state, people don't see cheap wood.
They ask what kind of wood is this?
Yeah,
If
make
it's,
sure
if
it's
it's ash, you say, yeah, never
Well, they
mind.
won't put it,
Dan, you had a question?
Yeah, just, I'm kind of comparing this to the problem we have with zebra mussels and Eurasian milfoil within the lake and other water bodies throughout the state. And the way that they attack that in the state, trying to harvest the milfoil out of ponds, lakes, and it's just a fact of life. I assume that we're just gonna have to live with the fact that this, the emerald ash borer will exist in Vermont for whatever period of time, forever, probably in our lifetime, and we'll just have to address it on an annual basis. Is that true?
I don't know.
Well, I think if we're gonna be diversified, hopefully will not be a problem, because we won't have, unfortunately, any more wonderful ash trees.
Yeah.
There are, research attempts being made to come up with, some other insects that may be attacking them, but it's really in its infancy right now. And maybe something will develop over the next number of years, but I'm not sure if it would be soon enough to save what we have. There are efforts being made for some really prized ash trees that there are chemical treatments that can be done, but it's a fairly expensive process that's ongoing for many years, forever, really.
This is where you bring in an exotic bird from Asia that
Right.
eats these things, and then it kills everything else, and then you just got the exotic bird from Asia.
The ash,
There are
the
another
ash
problem.
tree is a native species to Vermont, right?
Yeah.
It is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so we're not gonna wipe out the ash tree population.
No,
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 we
but
won't.
the ash borer is not from around here, is it? Is it?
Right,
No,
well,
that
I'm
is
supposed to wipe it all
amazing.
out, but I assume it will devastate.
That's
good
why it's
sections.
able to survive,
Yeah.
that's why it's a pest, because it's not native. There's birds haven't had a chance to evolve to kill this thing.
And let me say that, to answer that question about the state is very concerned because 5% or so of Vermont's forests are ash trees.
Nice.
And they expect them to be all wiped out. So this is not going to not get them all. What they are working on to carry on with Nick's response was that they are in the early stages of looking at resistance in the ash.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So there may be the possibility down the road to re-implement the ash tree. So they're hopeful.
Any other questions?
What's the next step, or what's the process?
Well, it's in our budget to
Okay.
fund the program, and I think Nick and Maureen here, just in case we had any, and we clearly did have a lot of questions. Any other questions that we have? But it was included in it's part of our whole budget package.
Well, we're always available. You can contact us at any point, and we'd be happy to answer your question or meet with you or whatever you'd like to do.
And we're certainly hoping we're gonna be able to do this for less than what
Yeah.
we were requested
Right.
by. Because we're able to plant trees for quite a bit less in what we've been doing around the community, but we just needed to put it out there.
I anticipate that you'd be, as you said, you're gonna have to be coming back, but you'll get a better sense of how much you need.
Mhm.
But I would also say that it might not be a bad idea for us in the coming year to have the conversation with the town to get the equipment, because this is a long-term commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might actually not be a bad idea.
We've been fortunate that we're kind of ahead of the game
Yeah.
in the town, and, with our committee and other things, and we've been able to focus just on street trees, where the trails and conservation commission there is dealing with so many other elements, so they're on their way, yeah.
Any other questions? Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
see you down.
Okay. We are on to our next item is to reallocation of the FY18 assigned fund balance. Sarah?
All right. So about a month ago, the trustees assigned fund balance in excess of the 10% cap on unassigned fund balance for buildings maintenance. It was $39,699, and we're recommending that of that $11,000 is reallocated to cover the governance advisory attorney,
Okay.
Dan Richardson. This will remove $11,000 from the operating budget and help soften the overall increase.
Anyone have questions about this? Dan, did you get that? You got this?
Yeah.
The only thing I was, in looking at this, 11,000, I'm wondering if we wanted to call it for we might want to just call it for governance, governance change project or governance research. Because we might not want to spend it all on Dan, but there might be other costs. And I know that we can change the designation. I'm trying to think of
Call
something.
it merger, call it governance, just call it governance.
Governance.
For governance, yeah, okay. I mean,
Does it make a difference?
huh?
Does it really make a difference what we call it?
Well, it might just for the record and for the minutes, it might help clarify things going forward. If we decide, if it doesn't go all to Dan Richardson, if we use some of it to do something else with, for some other conference or some other piece of information, then we gotta, we might have to correct it. So I'm just saying for governance.
Yeah, I get your point, makes sense.
And just for those who weren't a part of our earlier conversation, that's from one-time money, so it's not as if this is new money or anything
No,
like
this
that.
is just one-time money, right? And this is fund balance transfer money.
Right, fund balance is a phrase that not many out in TV land understand.
Our savings.
Explain what fund balance is, Andrew.
Extra money that we have from one year, and
And we have a fund balance policy of maintaining 10% of approximately 10% of the previous year's budget on hand in anticipation, and the town has a 15%
Correct.
fund balance policy. Both communities used to have a zero fund balance policy, so I think we straightened that out, but, yeah, it's been a while since we.
Theirs is 15% of 14 million, and yours is 10% of 5 million.
Yeah.
So they have a little bit bigger, but it is your savings account,
Yep.
and you're supposed to have one.
Okay, so I will make a motion that the trustees reallocate $11,000 assigned fund balance from building maintenance to governance.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
I
Opposed? Oh, thanks, Dan. Yep, good. You say aye? Okay,
Yes.
unanimous, thank you. And Sarah, I think, were you doing
Thank
the
you.
next one?
I am, yeah. So that was simple. And the next one, it's my understanding that annually Lauren would come back at this meeting after our budget day with any changes that we've made to the budget since budget day.
Right.
Upon drafting this memo, we had made two, and we had thought you guys would be okay with reallocating that assigned fund balance, so this memo reflects that. And then we also fully funded the Channel 17 request as requested. And so those are the two changes that had been made in the budget document since our budget day. And the cost is detailed here in the memo. It's a net decrease of $9,000, changing the overall percentage increase from 4.82% to 4.63%. I know that we have some other ideas and suggestions. Oh, is that the slowdown cue? Okay,
That's the
some
slowdown.
other ideas and
She
suggestions
loves her numbers.
that will go through. And then I don't actually know if you need to take action on those items, but we recommend that we incorporate those into the budget document and go from there. That's gonna take some practice.
Okay, so what, you look like you've got a sense of what what you're saying is that you've got some other ideas for the budget, because the select board last evening decided not to go forward with the idea of eliminating the town highway tax and incorporating the village's rolling stock fund into the town general fund. So that impacts our budget.
Yes.
And I think there might have been some other decisions. So where are we generally?
All right, so having sensed the direction of conversations about a week or so ago, staff was getting the sense that the town, while supportive of, in general, some of the ideas, they didn't know if this was the right year to do it. So we took a look at, from a staff perspective, the impacts of unwinding the rolling stock and the highway tax, and what its impact was for both communities. Knowing that there's gonna be a tax increase, but of what level and how to get it down. So staff, mainly Sarah and Greg and myself, basically got into a room together and said, okay, what's on the table? What have we heard? And so we have put together a list of options for both communities. The select board would have some things. So the general gist is when we come back to do more budgeting, we have some ideas for the village. It's gonna, some ideas was the Parks and Rec was looking for some money to do a cleaning contract so that they could free up one of their maintenance employees. While we wouldn't eliminate that, we would delay that move for a little bit, which saves a couple $1,000s this year, and would need to be replaced in the following year. The town would make a monetary transfer to the village of a sum of money, and probably somewhere in the $50,000 range, based upon equity, what you're trying to do. We can do it in many different, they can do it in many different ways. One of the suggestions was the town clerk used to be the village clerk. She moved over to the town. The village pays 100% of her salary and benefits, and then the town picks up the other two employees and the office. We can call that $50,000 a 50-50 on the position, as we've done with other positions. So we're looking at a sum of about $50,000 to do as another sharing and transfer. Very similar to what you've done with the manager's office, etc. The town would still move forward with the building's maintenance supervisor position, but not have the village pick up the $20,000 that was in your budget, but still provide that service to the village. And then it gets down into smaller and smaller amounts of money. A couple people have some things in their budgets of less than $2,000. We'll provide you that list. There's the same thing in the town. In the town, there was a couple of things where people had some contingency things in their budget, like IT and the community development department. After those, it gets down into $500 or $1,000. And there's a small list, and so we will present that to you at the next time you have a budget discussion. In general, it takes the town budget, if they accept all those changes, somewhere in the neighborhood of 2.98, 2.99% rate increase. At this particular moment, the village, with what we've said, is gonna be somewhere about 3.99, 4.0. And after that, changes in the village there isn't much in the village budget that isn't new. There are some salaries, there are some benefits, but those are somewhat locked in. But there's some other things, but if it wants to go below 4, we've at least got the staff proposed budget to that range. And we certainly can have a much deeper conversation if you wanna go deeper.
I don't know.
Or you want her to get, Sarah to go deeper.
Go
I
ahead.
just have a couple of questions. In terms of a time frame, you mentioned for our next budget meeting. It looks like that our next meeting is a public hearing. All that's to then make sure that come February 26th, we're able to adopt the warning for the annual meeting. I'm assuming it's the 26th, and that's probably one of the last dates, unless we warn a special meeting. Is that gonna be enough time?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, just based on this, I have some other thoughts, and I'm sure that there's other concerns that may arise between now and then.
And if I can just add to that, it seems like a lot is still dependent on what the select board does.
Yes.
Right.
Which is really concerning.
The select board was
I don't see
definitive,
that.
they're not
Yeah,
doing
no,
they're not doing
we're set.
so it's back. We know exactly where your budget is going to be without the transfer. Staff has recommended, we can go down that list of what we
It's a
recommended,
short
because now
list.
that I noticed that
Yeah.
Sarah has it up, so let's go down that list real quick.
Well, before we do that, just
Yeah.
Okay.
so
I mean,
after
We can
today's
do it
meeting,
tonight.
well, after today's meeting, there's a month and a half until we have to warn,
Yeah.
we have to warn the
you're
amount
right.
for our budget.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
So if we're gonna wait 2 more weeks to really get into the meat, is that enough time, frankly?
I mean,
a
we
month
have an
to-
agenda item tonight to have a budget discussion, and so I think that.
Yeah, and
I
let's
think we
see,
should just
why don't we have the discussion,
get
see
it-
where
get
we
some more
go.
direction.
We're not, we don't have to come to a decision tonight, but let's just see where we can go
Mhm.
for another 10 or 15 minutes anyway. Okay? Yeah.
Good.
Did you have a question, Lori, or? Okay. Go ahead, Sarah.
So I'm gonna just recap.
Yep,
So we had the original budget proposal, let me just see where this has, the original budget proposal, and then those 2 changes that I just summarized in the memo, the removal of the $11,000 for Dan Richardson, and the increase to fully fund the Channel 17 request. That net decrease of $9,000 had left us with an overall general fund expenditure increase of 4.63%. It's about $230,000. Because that original proposal had the transfer from the town in for the village rolling stock of $131,400, the increase on the tax rate was anticipated at 1.2%. That's where we were. Removing the transfer from the town for the rolling stock, and that increases the tax rate implication because it doesn't do anything to change the expenditure budget, and removing the approximately $20,000 for the buildings person landed us at an overall increase of 4.24%, but an increase to the tax rate of 4.45%. And that's primarily a result of bringing that rolling stock back in. From there, Evan, Greg, and I sat down with both budgets and we started to make some cuts. We actually only could find 3 on the village budget, so this list is not much of a list. First was to cut the cleaning contract that EJRP suggested in half. That was a reduction of $9,600. One of the things that we recently learned is that the farmer's market will not be continuing. We had increased that community events line where we used to fund them over last year, which had included funding for them, and then they weren't continuing, so we thought we would just leave it there just in case other things came up. So that
Which they did, which is Steam Fest and art.
yeah.
well, one of the suggested cuts would be $1,000 back out of that. So that had been at $10,850, recommending pulling that down $1,000. That's still an increase over the prior year to help support those important community events and programs. And then the last thing was there was a $1,500 item for capital outlay in the community development budget. And we axed that, thinking that maybe that could be pushed out another year in light of new equipment. That's it for additional cuts. Thinking about positional equity and how do we, we scoured this thing, we got 3
Yeah.
things.
Well, we also have the money that the town.
Which is where we end up with
Yeah.
the money coming in from the town, and thinking about maybe something that otherwise we're in a position, I don't know what else we would cut. Because if we cut those 3 things, so imagine, if we cut those 3 things, that gets us down to an overall expenditure increase of 4.0 even.
Okay.
But without any additional funding coming in from the town or in any other external sources, like a local option tax. No, it's a little late now,
Well,
but
we
any,
can't
you know,
quite do
I
that
know
right
you
now.
can't, but like, just let's think about diversifying revenue while
Yeah,
we're talking
I
about
understand.
revenue.
We're there.
We're
We think
still
about it all the time.
at, oh, good, keep
Yeah.
thinking about it. We're still
Keep it at
at
the forefront.
a village tax rate increase of 4.27%. So unless we have another revenue source come in, we're looking at over 4% on a tax rate increase. If we grab if we can find $50,000 in another revenue source, maybe it's a combination of a few things, that pulls that, it leaves us at a 4.0 overall expenditure increase, but it pulls that tax rate increase down to 2.825%. How's my pace? Is it better?
Well, say that,
Okay.
could you go say that last piece again? If
Yeah.
we, say that again, if we do what?
If we are able to find $50,000 of additional revenue,
Right,
non-property tax revenue sources, such as a transfer from the town, if we want to reevaluate positional equity, that pulls the proposed village tax rate increase down to 2.825%. And as per usual, we're estimating a 1% non-global foundries grand list growth as part of all of this. That's the other assumption.
okay.
So,
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Yep, no, you,
So is this, positional equity with the clerk's positions, is this something going forward, we would adjust the percentages that the village and the town are covering those positions with going forward, or is this a one-time?
No, it would be, once it's transferred, we were thinking it's somewhat of it's a permanent transfer.
Permanent, okay,
As permanent as this arrangement is,
eh,
right.
at the
But
moment.
you're only talking about, I think, 2 or 3 positions, so there still are, because you said a clerk, an assistant clerk, and
The town already picks up those expenses.
so, but there's several other positions
Oh, yeah.
that we have kind
Yet
of
to
crazy
come.
ratios, so we can save those for another year
Yeah.
to use those, we could adjust those percentages to offset at a
And-
future
right.
time.
And just also remember, this budget from the village includes an increase of its own for capital.
That was.
Yeah.
A lot of this increase is to get at, I think you, and Andrew, forgive me the numbers. You're going from 7.5%
To 15.
15
Right.
Yep.
to be able to get to the capital list of streets that need to be repaved in the next 5, 6, 7 years. And without that increase, that list starts going out longer
Right.
and negative
Right,
for a year or two. So there's a reason that this is the right time to maybe be a little bit higher because you're investing in your streets. Whereas before, you bonded and charged these people, the residents and businesses, for that.
we didn't have a choice.
You know, you didn't.
So
But
when-
this is the reaction to not have to do that again.
you go ahead.
One quick question, just with 7.5, 15%, those are kind of amorphous. Can you put those into dollar amounts?
My esteemed colleague.
I would be happy to. So a 7% or 7.5% increase to the capital fund contribution is just shy of $24,000, and a 15% is just shy of $48,000.
So we're talking about a 24,000 additional dollar increase.
That's
Okay,
correct.
just wanted to put that into perspective of what we were talking about.
And so when we said that if you reduced
Yep.
50,000, you'd be in the 2-something range, you'd be in like the 3, she can probably do it in 6 seconds, a 3-something range without that increase, which we don't recommend.
Yeah, yeah.
You change.
I'm just wondering, Andrew, what would be the result if we if we stepped that increase? If we didn't double it, but we did it half and half? Like, we did 3.25% or 3.75% this year and 3.75 next year.
Frankly, it puts something off. It puts a project off for another point in time, which that then just means that project costs more. So we either pay a
Pay
little
now or
bit,
pay
we either
later.
pay more now, or we pay a lot more next year, because construction costs go up on average 3 to 5% every year.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? We had asked Lauren before, but she couldn't get to it, we got so busy, but we've had a penny on the tax rate now, this is our 3rd year. How much money is in that fund? And this is the problem I have, is that I'm not sure how we can, how we access, I know how we access that fund for one thing, but I'm not sure we can access that fund to
Yeah,
pay
no.
into our general fund. I'm not,
I know.
maybe we can.
I don't think,
I
I
don't
think we
want
were
to.
very specific that it had to be for economic development projects.
What are we spending for economic development?
At the moment, nothing, but we
In
have
our
lots of
budget, in our
possible
current
plans
budget,
in mind.
in our current budget. If we take whatever our economic development is for our proposed budget, and we take all the money out of that and transfer it into other line items, and then we fund what we wanted to do with economic development from money from the penny on the tax rate.
I don't think so.
Okay.
We're just,
Just a thought.
we're just moving money, we're not getting to the root issue,
But that's
which
not,
is we
that's
need.
not, but that would be 50, we could take 50 grand from that, and am I thinking correctly, or what?
You know, I think it was a big dog, just takes a little while for it to pull up.
Yeah.
Talking about economic development, I just flipped the economic development tab, and I do see that we have $20,000 in matching grant funds budgeted. I do think it's a great idea to have funds available in case grants come up.
Yep.
I can't remember precisely anything detailed, but the historical use on that account has been an average of about $5,000. That might be another option to trim a little bit from if we're looking to trim.
Do you see
But
what I'm
that's not
saying?
the account we're talking about.
No,
No, but it just
Our
is a-
penny on the tax rate fund, by my calculation, should have over $300,000 in
Yes,
it.
right.
If we took $20,000 out of that and say, okay, that's what we're gonna use for economic development, that 20,000, and then the line items that we have in the budget
I see what you're
disappear, they get moved into,
I
you
see.
see what I'm saying?
Yes. So you're saying to take that from the penny fund
Right.
and use that, allocate that towards 2020's general economic development expenses?
It's painful, but I'd rather do that than not fund a critically needed capital project. I don't know.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So, I'm not advocating for this, I'm just trying to get the dollars. We're talking in percentages, I need real dollars. So if we do everything that we've said, and it's a 2.825% tax rate increase, what is that increase in dollars on an average homeowner? I'm asking because you're so good, so I know you're gonna have it if I just keep on talking.
$25 a year.
And then if we,
On a 280,000 is what I'm using.
thank you, and then if we took out that 7.5% increase on the capital fund, I'm not advocating for that, but I'm just trying to get an idea of what would it be?
Are you still including the $50,000 transfer in from the town or other revenue sources?
Everything
Okay, just wanna
that-
make sure we're still. That pulls, if we go back to 7.5% capital funding, pulls the overall expenditure increase down to 3.52% from that 4 even, because we've now changed the expenditures. And it brings the tax rate increase down to 2.14% or $19 a year.
So, in my opinion, a $6 difference to go to the community and say, we need to fund our capital projects is okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't, when we talk in percentages, it seems so high, and $6 is a lot, I get it, but we have a lot of capital issues.
Oh, I know we do. I'm not, that's why I'm saying, oh, no, I'm
not.
not in favor of taking any capital
Right,
funding.
but I'm not, we could do the economic development thing, but I don't think we need to.
Yeah, I think that it's a reasonable.
It's a reasonable amount.
The town increase is around $43 for the
Correct.
Yes, which
$280,000.
is gonna hit village taxpayers.
Right, yes.
Which I was just gonna say, if you do the math, it's a 60 or 70 something dollar increase for the village residents.
Yeah, I mean, it's, everything that happens, that the town does, happens in the village, so we're adding to it. That's the problem, that's
Yes.
always been the issue. That's why we have to bond,
Absolutely.
and they don't.
Right.
We don't have to make a decision tonight. We can get these, we can maybe have several concrete ideas on the table, and then have them ready to make some firm decisions next time. I can work with Sarah to get the hard numbers ready for our next meeting, so we get it lined up, but, I'm just gonna say one thing, though. I think I need to get it, I was having this conversation with Evan before, and it needs to be said. The $50,000 transfer And I'm surprised, so we've been paying for the town clerk for the last 3 years. Is my understanding, we've been funding the town and the village clerk? I understand it, but I just want to get that concept clearly.
As far
But the
as-
assistant clerks were paid by the town.
Yeah, the administrative assistant and the assistant clerk, and any of
Which we still fund.
Okay.
Yes.
So, all right, but I just want to get, so that $50,000, I mean, that's reasonable, it's equitable, I think it's but you can't disguise the fact that it has a political component to it,
Yes.
which at town meeting, people could say, oh, wait a second, $50,000, what are you doing here? At town meeting, by the time town meeting comes around, the village budget will have been warned. It cannot be unwarned. If we warn a village budget that assumes a $50,000 transfer for this purpose from the town, we can't go backwards in time and unwarn it. It's warned, and we can't find another revenue source, because
Right.
those are all those things are locked in. And so if at annual meeting, someone at town annual meeting, someone says, we remove that 50,000 and they remove it, it has to come from some other line item. They can't, the town has to give that to us, because we have to have an annual meeting, and you know what I'm saying? It's like a constitutional crisis.
That
would
was
occur.
my comment earlier about concerning. That's my
Right.
concern. I mean, if we keep moving money back and forth, eventually, someone might stand up and say no, and then we're in trouble.
Well, yeah, but I mean, as long as the select board understands it, that if they lock that in, then that's locked in, and they have to explain that to voters at annual meeting, that we can't take that out. That's committed, and because we can't, there's nothing we can do at that point.
What I would rather see from that 50,000 is, instead of it just being a 50,000 contribution, we look at the allocation of the position.
Mhm.
One of the other concerns is inevitably this person, whoever it is, she's going to be deserving of a merit increase, pay increase. And if that 50,000 then isn't increased, we're then just setting the bar of how that inequity is just gonna continue to revisit itself. Where having it be as a percent of the position will at least make sure that as that position costs more, it's done equitably.
We can certainly do that and put it into a percentages wise. Some of the things that we've done is, when the town is, for the lack of a better term, taken a position from, that used to be paid for by the village or whatever, what we've done, somewhat on a cleaner side is, there's percentages, village and town, and the benefits are paid by the town. Doesn't matter whether you're on village benefits or town benefits, because they are different, we just pay them. And so, one way or another, it all blends into the amount of money that is approved by the budgets, et cetera. That conversation we had is, yes, the town select board understands and needs to continue to understand that at town meeting, if the citizens ask for a reduction, they have had a long-standing belief that citizens can ask for a dollar amount, but not a specific line.
Right. They can make a recommendation though.
Right.
And
And
That
the
has-
elected officials have to be very careful not to follow those wishes. But when you are talking about two communities working together and the impact of those two budgets and the changes, that will also need to probably be better explained at the town and the village meeting.
Yeah. Because it is very tricky, because we've got intricate.
For you, it's a
Because we're not at the same time, and so the town, plus Public Works, I mean, if it doesn't get approved, what happens?
Yeah.
Because we've already got a warned budget, we
But-
can't revise it, it's.
Now, in a conversation, if you can hear me, in a conversation with some people that have been around, a lot longer than I, and he used to sit in my chair, it appears, you've been at a lot more town and village meetings, it appears there's support for doing this.
Yeah,
It does not appear that there's been a severe backlash for larger sums of money than this.
Yes.
And it is in the vein of shared service and cooperation and getting to tax equity.
yeah, agreed.
Albeit slower than in previous years, but still tax equity. And that's what we're trying to achieve. And if this year is another step in that direction, we will all find out at the town meeting where the public stands on that. There may be other mechanisms that I'm not thinking of at this moment, that if it is reduced either in total or in part, we could figure out that difference of how to deal with it budgetarily before you, I mean, you've warned it, but we could figure out
Okay.
how to fill the gap. Especially with my esteemed colleague.
Can I ask one other question? So we're doing the space study, not outer space, utility space,
Yes,
for 60, the town is spending 50 and we're spending 10, or I can't remember what the ratio
I
is.
believe it's 60-10.
60-10, okay. Okay. All right, we won't go back. and revisit
53,
that.
54, 10.
Okay, we won't revisit that.
And again, one of the ideas is that's in your budget. If things break, maybe the town says, we understand what just happened and we'll discuss the
Yeah,
10.
because it's not something we were really begging for here in the village, a space study. But that's okay, we're, in the spirit of collaboration, we're willing to go there, but
But
we're
if it
willing to
comes
go
out-
into space.
But if it comes out with a 40, 50-year plan of here are the
Yeah,
needs,
I know.
it's at least a conversation starter.
But I'm looking at things that we're funding this year that we were not funding last year.
Yeah.
And
so
those
one
are
time-
the most obvious things that we chop.
So along those lines, I have some other thoughts still, or some other, is the EJRP communications person still, or position still in there?
Yes, it
In the
is.
budget? I know that it's something that I said at the last time that we met, I'd rather see that, is there a way to utilize existing staff by making them full-time to the 40-hour position to meet those needs? And/or have that be a town-wide position instead of just an EJRP position?
Well,
I think
I'm not
it's-
gonna answer the first part.
Yeah.
Because Brad's not here. I can answer the second part. The answer is no, not in this particular budget. That had been discussed and contemplated. Again, both
Yep.
communities are trying to keep their tax increase to a minimum, and it was
Yeah.
not in the town budget.
So I
It's
would,
currently split between the two budgets.
It is.
Yep,
Oh, that- oh, that's right,
50/50
50/50.
between Essex, Town, Parks and Rec, and EJRP. That cost is.
What can be done is that it can be delayed off of July 1, which is what it would be budgeted for, but I don't see how that benefits anybody.
Mike, it's adding a new, what I said last time, it's adding a new position, inevitably that's gonna turn into a full-time, is that really what we need at this point in time?
Yep.
I think there are communications needs throughout our community, and I get the impression that, or, I don't know if this is the right time or the right solution for the problem at this point. I'm still frankly not 100% sold on not co-locating EJRP and the town, Parks and Rec. I'm still not sold on waiving the non-resident fee for the town. So it was mentioned about having EJRP do the cleaning contract for only half the year. That then just puts us in a hole for the next year. I'd say if we're gonna do it, just do it. Or again, do we need this now or can that wait a year?
But it's currently being done by a employee,
Mhm.
that's what you would be foregoing.
Okay.
Right, right, that employee has tasks and everything, this would be to remove some of the time so that person can do something else.
Okay.
The other thing I would just encourage for, or I'd like for our next meeting, or for our next meeting packet, when we're gonna talk about the budget, if we could have the minutes from the 2016 annual meeting, and in particular relating to Article 3, when we talked about that 1 cent on the tax rate, I think if we could have this in front of all of us, it would be helpful to make sure that what we're talking about is
Yeah.
well in line with what the intention is. Those are the last of my thoughts.
Okay. And Lori, can you give me, I want to write down your idea about, you wanted to, actually, you weren't going to cut some of the capital, no. Okay.
I was just trying to get the dollar amount so it's $6
Okay.
additional to increase that, everything else being equal. But
Okay.
I will say, I think Andrew's ideas are good ones for us to talk about. We can talk more about the economic development idea
Okay.
It would be nice to have, the meeting minutes in there. It would also be nice, and I forget, I'm not gonna ask, that's okay.
Okay. Dan, you had a question, go ahead.
I just want to comment, I agree with Lori in the sense that I think it's important to establish the average household tax rate and cost for that home and the increase in real dollars as opposed to just saying percentages. Because when you get into the percentages, it's really hard to proceed.
Yeah.
The other thing is, the whole thing of talking about the positions and who's paying for what position. Everything that we do, the town provides whatever, 40% roughly of that is village taxpayers paying for that service already.
I know.
So I just, you know, I know it's, you know, known in the back by some people, but I think it's easy to forget that what the town is doing is using village tax dollars no matter what. So no matter what position they have, the village is paying for it, but the
Yeah.
village is also paying over and above.
I know, I agree, but that's what we have,
It's
so.
the way it is. But just, and the other thing, one other comment, when Evan was saying something about our, you know, the village clerk or town clerk, that Sue is now, you know, paid, her salary is paid by the village, but God forbid something happens, are these employees now village employees? Are they town employees? You know?
Dan, they're good questions, we don't have answers. I mean, I think, yeah, Susan, I don't know, I mean, I think where you get your benefits from, I think the way it's been working is where you get your benefits from, you're an employee of that community. And then the village just is contributing, it's basically like a consultant, the village is contributing
Right.
part of the salary. But but they, like Lauren was transferred and became an employee of the town.
Right. Well, I just, going forward, I assume at some point Sue is gonna be looking to retire, probably in the next 10 years or so. And then hopefully, we will have worked this all out, I hope.
Oh, yeah, we need to work all this out big time, I agree. We got a lot of MOUs and handshakes floating in the air right now, I know.
Oh, yeah. But I think it's important, like Lori said, to get the dollar figures, the difference in amount of real dollars per year that it's costing you, because you talk percentages and somebody could think it's overwhelming when, you know, realistically, it's maybe $10,
Yeah, 20, yeah,
$20.
I agree, yeah. Okay.
If you don't mind, I'd like to hear some other ideas so we can be prepared for this meeting. And have staff, the proper staff to be here to answer.
I like Sarah's idea of reducing the grant, money in economic development, because that if some amazing grant comes along that we go for, we could potentially use economic development money fund for that, but we haven't been using it. I mean, to your point, we haven't,
Or surplus, or other restricted, undesignated
Right.
or designated.
Okay.
It's
Put that in
currently
there.
at 24,000?
20 even.
I think last year was.
And we had said 5,000.
Which is about the average utilization over the last few years. Last year was the first year it was budgeted at $20,000, and that was a doubling from 10,000 the 2 years before.
Okay.
So we did submit a letter of intent for a grant of $15,000 with the required match.
Yeah.
So if that does come through, then, like you say, Evan, we could either touch surplus or we could have a special designation from the penny fund for that grant.
What was the match on that?
Well, it depends on what we get from the.
Okay.
But that's the question I have, with the penny on the tax rate fund, that's why we need to know whether we can do that. I don't know what the conditions are, as Andrew was saying, we need to actually see the motion and get an understanding, and that may not be enough, we may need to get an accountant or a legal opinion, whether we can just take money out of that for, what are the restrictions on that? I don't know what they are.
Well, Lauren sent them to us.
She did?
She did.
She did.
Oh, to Andrew and I.
Okay.
I thought we had capped the amount of money that we could spend out of that without going to the public for a vote. I think if we went for a certain amount, we had to go to the public and actually get their approval.
It was one of the amendments that was put on there, so I do have the minutes in front of me. It was one of the amendments that was requested, but it was voted down
Oh, it's voted down,
about having a cap on it.
so there's not a cap on it.
So we have free range or free will to do whatever with that money. I mean, at least the amount that we use, not for what we spend it on. I'm not saying go to a capital project, but we can, if it's economic development related, we can spend the whole litter, full of kitty.
So, to really, there's about 3 pages worth of notes or of minutes
Yeah.
from that meeting, from this discussion alone.
Yeah.
I don't want to read 3 pages worth of minutes,
We'll
nor do I
read
think your
it.
ears
We'll
want to
take
hear
care
them.
of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would be
I
great.
think it's
if we had
I don't think we can,
Hear
we don't have clear answers
Got it.
right now, Dan, about what the restrictions are on that. I think we're gonna have to analyze it.
Yeah.
And what came out, even what we know, we might not know, you know, we may have to look into it more, when something, was approved like that. I just don't know, but we'll definitely figure it out.
Okay,
I mean, the concept was, it was gonna be, for big ticket items, it was gonna be, the trustees wanna spend, you know, $100,000 on this thing, and it's gonna go to annual meeting, and people approve the withdrawal of $100,000, and we spend it. So the idea of, could we pull 10 or 15 or $20,000 out of it in the middle of the year without going to the voters, that didn't come up, and so we just don't know what the answer is.
right. Well, my impression when we brought that up at the meeting, village meeting, was that in some way, it may also be a joint village and private business investment, like
Yeah.
somebody's to improve their store frontage.
Right.
We'll help them with that. Maybe, do
Right.
some signage.
Right.
To help, for the village and for the business community.
Right.
So here's our historic downtown
Yeah.
Essex Junction, and we do a joint sign with some businesses on it.
Yep. Agreed.
And this year is the year for the pay and classification study, and we have, it looks like 10,800.
We're contractually obligated.
I know we are, but has it always been that much?
Yeah.
Roughly, yeah. I
It
believe
has,
that was
okay.
it.
Yep.
Yeah, the FY18 actual, the last year we actually did it was $10,821.
You're pretty close. Okay, we can look at all these numbers and before our next meeting
And if the trustees will please just send us your thoughts and
Yeah,
ideas
I,
in advance.
I don't think it's,
We
I
can
think
run
if
it
you're
to
looking
Rob.
at it and you see, oh, wait a second, what about this? We don't have to, I don't think I think you can just send that along to Sarah. It's not, look, we don't need a meeting, we don't
Right.
need 3 of us to ask Sarah a question, so I think that's okay. And then I will work with her to try to get some formality to it, so we have, at our next meeting, so we have some real numbers to look at.
So it would be nice to see a document that kind of takes us back before we were moving before we were moving the rolling stock. Is that difficult? It's just like what our budget would look like since we're not moving that. I'm trying to look for what's in here, but I can't find it. Just to have the numbers in front of us when we meet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Basically redo budget day.
Parts of it, right?
Budget day,
Right.
mini budget day, really, really mini,
Mini.
yeah.
Sort of like what I walked you through before. This is where we started, this is that
Yes.
step.
Right.
I can certainly do
That would
that.
be
And then
helpful.
a quick thought that I have about sort of all these all the pieces of the suggestions is, we can put that, what is the estimated average annual dollar amount
That'd be
impact of each, and then we can sort of look at them cumulatively and say,
Yeah.
okay, if we pick these 4, we're good with this, or these 3 big ones, or something. I think maybe that's a way to look at it.
That'd be great.
It's helpful.
Sounds
And
good.
no offense to Dan, it may turn out to be a better visual if it's up on one of the screens. So if we could figure out.
Dan
how
will
to-
be here next time, probably.
Okay, sure. But.
Tell Trumpo to say he's guilty and move the trial, off if he's done.
Okay.
Everybody gets a day off here and there, sir. But it may be more of a visual thing.
Yeah,
then.
yeah, we'll do that, definitely. We'll figure this out, so. Well, as I said, you can contact Sarah with additional, but I think we've got a good list here.
And is there a dollar amount or a number that you are thinking of?
I'd say I definitely would like to see the percentage. I mean, 4 is a scary number,
Yeah.
whether it's a tax rate or a budget increase.
Mhm.
You know, even if it's $25, it's just 4, just seems like we're heading in, it's a little above, consumer price, normal economic growth.
I
and
don't
stuff.
disagree, I'm
Yeah.
just asking,
I mean, so the closer we get it to 3 is good.
And in reality, I think we have a very good budget.
Yes, I do.
It's just that we are tied to the town and their increase affects us. And so overall, it's larger than we would want.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think what has been put together so far
Yeah, I think
is
exactly,
great.
I agree. It is, yeah.
And just for that conversation, I am not shocked in any way. Some of the conversation was, well, any number that started with a 2
Yeah,
point is better than a 3 and a point.
yeah.
And so, even though a tenth of it doesn't really move the needle, it's psychological.
Yeah.
and
It
it's-
is.
And you do have a fiduciary responsibility, to try to keep the town's taxes in line, and
Yep.
I get it. We're close,
Yep, we are. We're
and,
fine.
I will, you could remind me, we'll have Brad here,
That'd be helpful.
at the next meeting, since a lot of what Andrew and others have mentioned is in his budget.
Yep.
And he would be able to answer the impact of change.
Okay. We'll get there.
And so just any thoughts we have, send them to Sarah, copy you of it.
That'd be
Yeah.
great. Just, it's great, she's probably not a full day behind on emails.
2
Not that-
hours.
2 hours? Good, thanks. Thanks for making me look bad.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Dan, do you have any last questions? You good?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you all.
Everyone good? All right, good, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Do you have a spreadsheet that calculates the 2 hour?
You don't need a-
It's actually less if I'm not bothering her.
right.
So we're gonna move on to the discussion of a manager evaluation, and I had, I don't know if everybody got these. I got this just, I'm sorry, I was a little remiss. Trevor had gotten me Pat Scheidel's manager evaluation form. I don't know the history of it. I took it and sort of just sketched it to make it appropriate for the village, and I took some things out of it that I didn't think were, but anyway, we can look at it. But I have the draft, and did everyone get one?
It's what's on our table?
It should be on your table.
Yep.
And did you get one, Dan? I think Tammy said she put it in your Dropbox.
Yeah, it is
I'm gonna drop
In
off.
Dropbox, if you can go in the Dropbox, and it should have been a recent addition, it wouldn't have come with the rest of the stuff.
Not on the screen.
And it says, a draft evaluation, manager evaluation, Essex Junction Board of Trustees.
That'd be
All right.
perfect.
And I'm sorry, I'll let you look for it, but if you don't mind, let me know if you got it, and I can probably, if not, we can read through it here, so you can at least hear what we have. But see if you can find it. And I'll,
I'm looking.
yeah,
Let's see here. Alright, it's gonna be in here somewhere. What's its title again?
it's draft manager evaluation, and, I don't know what the, I don't know what the PDF.
EJ bot draft manager eval.
Yeah. It's a PDF document.
Yeah. There's both of them.
It should have been probably the last one you got.
The last one I've got is planning commission minutes, it looks like.
No,
Let's see where your battery is.
you're going backwards.
But go ahead.
Okay.
I'll look.
Well, why don't you look, it should have come today, late in the afternoon, and Tammy said she,
I got it. It
You
was
got it?
under another folder called additional materials.
there you go,
I-
there you
I
go.
got
Okay, and it's the first one, it's draft manager evaluation.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I got
I just want to, this is just, we took, there's 2 documents here, one is Pat's, and I just took the stuff out of it and made it village-centric instead of town-centric. The only thing that I changed was the select board the evaluation asks the select board to assess the manager's interaction with department heads. They don't talk to department heads, so I don't know how they do an evaluation of that, but anyway, but we can talk to department heads, so I just said, part of the first half of it, first portion of it is department heads, but they were the questions that were from that evaluation. I think I added one to the very end, but the others were all the same that were on Pat's. And then I think all of the other questions I had on here were the same evaluation, and I think they are along the lines of all the things that we've done in the past. In fact, I have a suspicion that the etiology of this may have gone from village to town and then back to us, I'm thinking, because these look really familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
George, are you gonna be the one who talks to the department heads?
That's what we're discussing.
Sounds good.
That's what you've done before.
Yeah.
Nice job, George.
Okay, thanks. I mean, what I took out were things like Evan, professional development. I think Evan's been a little busy this year for professional development, so I don't think we want to have a lot of evaluation about his professional development. But I would like you to take a look at some of these, because I'm not even sure that some of these are necessary or appropriate. Interaction with the media.
Colin?
Yeah, but maybe we can let Colin answer that. Interaction with the public.
Thank you, buddy.
So I would like you to just take a look at, we don't have to do it tonight, I just wanted to introduce this and see if this generally, and if you have other ideas of what you want to do. Is this the format you want to pursue?
Are we gonna get like a Word version of this and we each fill it out, or are we doing?
Yeah, I can
Is
do that.
there-
What are your thoughts? I can do that, I can,
And where-
whatever you want.
Okay.
This was just a starter, we did,
Well, yeah, and are the rankings just for the top part, or is it the 1 to 5 for everything?
this was, well, it was intended that though, the rankings up at the top would be for everything, but
Okay.
again, we can do it differently. This is totally draft.
I would just say,
That's fine.
if while you're talking, if you're gonna ask department heads, how would you rate Evan, just why do they give that rating?
Well, yeah, and I think that's what if you look at the up top, what they're saying, if it's a 1 or 2,
Mhm.
then explain why. And if it's a 5, meaning excellent, you might want to comment on how excellent it was.
Right.
And again, that's fine, we can say comment, we can just have a general comment after each one, or
Yeah, as long as
rating.
there's a spot for us to comment after, like at the end, I mean, not like after every single thing, but like we do rank everything, and if there's some space for us to make comments, that'd be helpful.
And I'm gonna ask the question of you, but it's for Evan, but do we want Evan to look at this and add, and edit this and give us some of his ideas, something that we're missing, that he thinks, or he would like to see evaluated?
One other comment, George,
Yeah,
that the department heads, when we inquire from them, or whatever, however we get their comments, to keep it, I think it's important to some anonymity, so that
yep,
there's no feeling of retribution or potential retribution on saying I haven't seen
yeah.
anything.
No, you're right, you're raising a good point, you're right, exactly.
I'll not be willing to say, but, if they can do it in more general terms, you start saying, how do you
Should
How
do
do
this
you-
in a survey.
explain the 5, you gotta go into specifics, so Jim Jutras have say, well, he did this, which will identify department head,
Yeah.
who, from the performance.
Well, we could do a number of different things. We could say to the department heads that all of their responses will remain confidential within the trustees, and then we just summarize them and let Evan know.
That-
Or we can say, the manager, we will be showing your response to the manager, so you can be as specific as you want, but, it's sort of two different ways, two different approaches.
If I recall correctly, last time we did this, you did a survey.
Yes,
And that way it can be all these questions, you just do your ranks real quick, it will take less time,
Right.
and it was anonymous.
Yeah, it was a
But
non.
then you did talk
that's-
to everyone after.
I talked to
that.
everybody the last time, and then we just pooled all the answers together. Any language that looked like it, you know, we didn't edit it, but it was a few things, we just took a few things out that might have helped, you know, might have been specific for, so it looked anonymous.
Right.
And that's what we did, and we showed it to Pat, and I think
we
everyone
did
was
the same
happy.
exact thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Sounds good.
okay. Well, again, let's finalize this next time, take a look at it, bring it home, and then
And-
bring in your changes.
I might suggest that Max, on the town side, sort of you two team up.
Yeah.
So, because you have 17 department heads.
Right.
Or more-ish, depending upon, so I think you may want to kind of put it together, and then you and Max be the,
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky, the thing is that we are allowed to, I don't know that Max is allowed to talk to department heads to do, for the purpose of value, unless you say it's okay,
I
I
think
don't
for
know.
the purposes of evaluation, I think it's mainly not talking to department heads and other things as relation to day-to-day operations.
Yeah.
In terms of evaluation, I'm fine, I've mentioned I'm fine with it. But I do think you should give me the names so I can.
Put them down. But do you also, on a serious note, is it okay that Evan look at this and give us some suggestions of his? It doesn't mean he will eliminate anything, but he might have some other ideas about questions that we might want to
That's
ask.
fine.
Is that okay?
And it would be good for him to also fill it out,
Yeah.
his own evaluation.
Oh, you want a self-eval?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's not in my contract.
And I would also, if you get
None of the-
if you have time, look at the original document to see if there's anything on there that I didn't bring
Okay.
over
Yep.
that you want to bring over to this one, okay?
George,
Thank you. Yeah, Dan?
it seems like there could be some redundancy here when you consider that Sue is the clerk for the village and the town,
Yeah.
and Sue's not gonna do anything different. Dennis Lutz is
I
technically
know.
the department head for public works for both communities. So why are we really gonna have him say, evaluating for us, evaluating for the town?
Yeah, I think, I guess it is tricky. That's a very good point. Because last time we asked Lauren and Susan, and Lauren is gone. I mean, Sarah's a town employee. I don't know that I have the jurisdiction to interview a town employee for the purpose of a village manager.
Allowed
I-
to have a say at it, I
This
believe.
is very, yeah, I know. So, I don't know, you got me there, I don't have an answer.
I think, if I may, I think
Yeah.
frankly, you shouldn't
Yeah,
talk with town employees about the quality of our manager. It's not within our charter.
I kind of agree with you. I mean, yeah. I guess maybe because Sue is still being paid by the village, I could,
That's
and
what
she's
I
a
would
clerk.
say, if
Right.
there's still some payment happening from
Yeah,
us,
I would say within the administration, I'd talk to Sue, and that would be the department head there. I can't see Dennis, so I would talk to Rick.
Right.
Yeah, and then just village staff, village department heads.
Sure, you
Okay.
wanna give Sarah a shot at me?
You know, maybe.
I'm just kidding.
So I wanna think about that.
Well,
Okay,
she is.
Think about it.
Well, I am the finance director for both.
Exactly.
And I'm the
Exactly.
assistant village manager.
It's not like you're,
So-
yeah, I mean,
It's-
it's, your opinion is important,
Okay.
your
We do
work
pay-
is important.
We do
So-
pay 20% of her salary and benefits and 100% for utilities.
I wouldn't relate this to the cost of salary at all. I would relate it to the workload and how it affects the village. And Sarah is a huge part of the
Right.
village now, so.
Yeah.
I understand,
And
but,
she
Perhaps you and Max could do it together.
well, that, we can,
That was
I
my
can talk to you
point,
about it.
and she spends a lot of time on village effort,
Right,
and we
exactly.
spend a lot of time,
Together.
fortunately or unfortunately, together. And we work side by side as I do, and I'm okay. Again, if you wanna talk to Ricky Jones, talk to Ricky Jones.
Yep.
He is, technically Dennis is the supervisor, but Ricky Jones is the
Oh, I think we
village.
absolutely have to talk to Rick
You
Jones.
know,
Yeah.
talk to Jim Jutras, that's fine.
Yeah,
with
I
me.
can't talk to every single.
But you can't talk to
I don't
every
have that
single
much.
one.
You did it?
I understand
Last
that.
year?
Not in the town.
No,
That's
that's
what-
right.
That is why I recommended working with Max.
I'll work
on
with
the
Max
town
and see
side.
what he wants to do about town staff. Okay, then we can maybe a couple together or something like that, or he can do it.
I'm on the consent agenda.
I'm guessing that the select board would have to sign off on saying it's okay for him to do this. And they probably will want to have a different take on it. But anyway, we know where we're going. Take this home, look at it, give me your changes next time.
All right.
Okay, good, thank you. Approval of resolution for appreciation of Lauren Morso. And Greg was gonna, I'm not sure, do you want to do this, Evan?
I certainly could.
Okay.
I could read it,
Yep.
but it's somewhat odd for me since all of you spent so many more years with Lauren, but this may be a walk down memory lane. So whereas Lauren Morzel was hired as accountant computer manager for the Village of Essex Junction on June 7th, 1993. And whereas Lauren was promoted to finance director. And whereas Lauren was hired as co-interim village manager for the Village of Essex Junction in September of 2012, serving in that role for more than 10 months, which I wish her well. Whereas Lauren was hired as finance director for the town of Essex and the Village of Essex Junction in January of 2015, becoming the first unified finance director for the town of Essex and the Village of Essex Junction. And whereas Lauren retired on December 31st, 2018, concluding more than 25 years of dedicated service and leadership to the entire Essex community. And whereas Lauren played a critical role in the consolidating the village and town finance departments and aligning the village and town budgets. And whereas Lauren's budgeting skills, creativity, and fiscal oversight ensured that the village and the town had strong financial basis. And whereas Lauren served as a mentor to numerous municipal employees, demonstrating leadership through honesty and expertise. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees and the Select Board, which did last night, on behalf of the staff and citizens of the town of Essex, including the Village of Essex Junction, hereby extend our most sincere appreciation to Lauren for her 25 years of dedicated service to Essex, adopted this 8th day of January 2019 by the Essex Select Board and the Essex Junction Board of Trustees. The copy that we have has a typo or two, so we are gonna fix those and get them for your signature if you so approve.
Okay.
25 years.
Good job.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yep.
And well deserved.
Yep. I don't have any additions or changes. My only question was, are we doing a resolution for Patty? Did we do one? We did one. for Patty,
We did
sorry.
one.
We did one,
Yeah.
God, I'm sorry, of course we did, of course she was here.
The days are running into each other.
Yeah,
George.
sorry. I was thinking,
And-
yeah, that's great.
And
Well, Lauren's in Florida right now, so when she
She
comes
is.
back, so.
We don't want to go down and present it to her?
No, she must
She
come back.
volunteers.
She must immediately fly back
It
here.
was part of my professional development.
Need a legislative rep, though.
Yeah.
We good with this?
Okay,
So I'll move we approve a resolution of appreciation for Lauren Morso.
Second.
Dan seconds, all right. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So, let me see, I've got to make a motion. So at this time, I will move that or do we need to do the manager's report and the consent agenda though? I think we need to do manager's report. Did we have that as on our?
We do have them on the agenda.
Yeah, okay, sorry. I'm a little out of sequence there because we had those listed.
G and H were for executive session, while
Oh.
6 and 7.
Yeah, let's go to the consent agenda first. Anyone have any changes, questions about the consent agenda? Everyone good with the consent?
I'll move we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Okay, did you say aye, Dan?
Yes, aye.
Okay, so unanimous. So we are on to the reading file. There was one thing I wanted to point out to everybody in the reading file. Do you remember that we took on for the Vermont Housing, that we took on the pass-through, became the pass-through community for their website?
Yep.
And their community data profile is up, and for Essex Junction, Essex Town, and Colchester. And I put it in here, and I thought you guys would take a
Thank you
look at it.
so much.
Yeah, it's
It's
really
so
nice.
interesting.
It was really interesting.
I would love to ask Maura or Mia to come to the board and walk us through the findings.
Okay,
Just help us understand some of the data.
can be done.
That would be a big help.
We'll make a note of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
And Evan, I would love to invite Darren and Dana to come to that too. I think they would find it valuable if they were willing to come. Or they could just
They'll
watch,
come.
they could just watch the
Oh,
video.
yeah, no.
Okay. So we don't, that's with the reading call. Anyone else? I'll open for trustee comments, anything? Trustees, we good?
I'm gonna go to the legislative breakfast
Okay,
on the 28th.
all right.
I'll be there too.
You'll be there?
Let's get a table.
I think manager's report, I think we are good. I don't think we have any new updates, changes to schedules, anything going on.
Just wanna, briefly, I have been meeting, with the CFO of the school district on a regular basis. We had a nice chat about many things. Busing in the village is still, on their minds. They're trying to get it going. I'm now hearing that it may be February. We originally scheduled a meeting at the end of January to go over how the first couple of weeks went, which now will probably get moved back, but they're trying. They are struggling with drivers. And it's an interesting system with how it works. People think that we are paying for busing. In fact, they get the funding from the state. It's our property tax money that goes to state, gets distributed. The overall,
Welcome to Vermont. That's how, you're right. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's just, that happened with Act 60
Yeah.
back in the 1995 or 96.
Yeah.
We send the money to the state, and the state
Yeah.
does stuff and sends it back.
yeah, and they do, and, but the ridership and the penetration of people using the service is not a high percentage in Essex and Essex Junction, although one of the things I'd like to find out from them is how weather dependent is the usage.
Yeah.
But they're working on things, on that. We discussed a couple of different things. From a police perspective, we would like to see a school resource officer in each of the schools, districts. So one for the high school, one for the Essex schools, and one for the Essex Junction schools. Right now, we only have one school resource officer, and so we are starting a conversation. Is retiring, and we are replacing him
We are, okay.
with another officer for that. Now, the interesting thing of that is our the school resource officer is there for the school year, and when they are out of session, our officer is back on other assignments. So we do get some other use, but that's one of the things. Several communities are discussing Howard Center usage. Our program that we have worked with South Burlington, Colchester, Winooski, Williston, and ourselves currently. There is a proposal to have Richmond join us. And so, just to let you know, we have 4, and they work Monday through Friday with us, and they're on a call basis. They are embedded in the departments of the police, and they respond from those locations. It has been incredibly successful. You could ask the Essex Free Library. They've used them on calls. They get rare, but they do. The Brownell Library gets calls. The school district gets calls. And it frees up our officers from these things. If an officer takes a person to the mental health center, they don't get to drop them at the front door and leave. They have to stay until they're either evaluated and admitted or evaluated and released. that could be hours, it could range. So an officer is tied up, and a Howard Center person is a whole lot better service level than an officer for that activity. But there has been a discussion of how can we go to a fifth person and do nights and weekends in that. And so it's coming late in the budget seasons, but it's a need that we know is there, and this is a town expense. So, but just to give you a flavor of some of the things that we've been working on, and then I can talk to either of you guys individually or whatever, because budget's taking up a lot of time and
Yeah.
but other things. But that's kind of where the meeting with the school district and Howard Center. And the other thing, I know that Crescent Connector is still moving on. We are seeing some movement, not only with our friends at the railroad, and I attended a meeting where we were talking about legalities of the properties and the easements that we have to obtain. And so it's moving. Slow as it is moving.
Questions? Any other comments? Okay, so at this time, I will move that the trustees enter an executive session for the negotiation or securing of real estate purchase or lease options pursuant to 1 VSA 313 to include the unified manager, assistant town manager, that's not you.
That's not me, don't you?
The finance director,
Assistant village manager.
okay, and the community development director to attend,
That's it?
Here he comes.
Okay, second.
okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And,
Aye.
okay, opposed? Okay, so that's approved, and we will take a short break while we clear the room. Thank you.